Welcome back to Cheer for Peace Expo. Today we're talking about movement building. We have Duncan over here. Duncan Crowley is going to talk about eco-urbanism. A lot of projects that are going on and movements that are going on back in Ireland, in Europe. Barcelona has been involved in a couple of other movements as well. And welcome, Dunk.
Thank you.
We are going to share with you the link of our blog, cheerforpeace.wordpress.com, in the comments of this video. Duncan has posted all the topics and videos and images that he's going to be talking about. I know that's a little bit bad in the video for you to look at the images, but if you want, go over there and open your links, and he's going to be following you with all the descriptions of what he's going to talk about. Welcome.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, so we've been talking during the few weeks about ecological themes, urbanism, permaculture, transition towns, lots of these movements, things that are really just very simple, practical solutions to problems that we face today, are ways that we can affect our city positively, so that we can deal with possible future scenarios that might be difficult to deal with. So we talk about resilience, the ability for systems to deal with the shock. Okay, so I'm going to talk just quickly about some projects that have been involved in the past. Okay, so to start off, this was related to food. We did this talk already, but the technical problems didn't allow it to happen, so we're doing it again. So I'll talk you through some of the things. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to show you a quick little video from Barcelona, which, this one here, it's only 1 minute, and it kind of gets partly to the base of what we're trying to do with these sort of projects, these urban permacultural projects, I suppose you could call them. Okay.
Develop more walkways and bikeways to easily connect from within city centre to nature, the rivers, the sea, the surrounding hills.
Allow all abandoned spaces to become indefinite temporary garden.
Specify strategic zones as permanent community gardens, including within all existing public parks and schools.
Connect these nodes by greenways.
Turn these greenways into sepals.
Plant fruit and nut tree, berry hedges, food for the city.
These biothreads allow nature into the city, butterflies, songbirds, pollen.
Use city roof space as one sepal, solar energy and water collection zone, a new public park.
As private car use diminishes, turn our car lanes into food lanes.
Create mixed-use cluster around garden, play area, sports zone, cafe community centers.
Make spaces experimental, adaptable and open to everyone.
Let's all life adapt and grow.
So that's basically it. The idea of allowing all life to adapt and grow. Two of the major areas that I was focusing on were the idea of greenways and sepals. Sepals, show to you here. So this is a book, Sepals, CPULS. It stands for Continuous Productive Urban Landscape. It's a phrase that's been developed by an architect in England looking at Cuba's response to their peak oil situation. After the Soviet bloc fell, suddenly there was a lot of energy shortage in Cuba, and the result was people would either starve or else create food locally. With that, distribute locally, setting up local markets, local economies, etc., etc. It resulted in, for example, Havana going to about 80% of its own fruit and veg being created within the city of Havana, the capital. So if it's possible there, it's possible here. It's possible in all cities if we put our mind to it, if there's a reason to do it, if there's a desire to do it. So that's basically the idea. The sepals is making strips through the city of food production along the strips. So that's one of the ideas. The other one is the greenway, which is the idea of using old infrastructural city parts that become derelict and trying to reuse them for non-motorized transport. So for cycling ways, for walkways, even for people to ride their horses along. in some cases, okay? So there are two of the major ideas that I worked with. I'll just see where I am. Sorry now, things aren't very organized because, so, we're changing computers. So, that video that you saw was part of a presentation I made, which was finally published in this book, The Self-Sufficient City, by IAAC, the Institute of Advanced Architects of Catalonia, in Barcelona. It was just an open competition. We made a submission on ideas for Barcelona about how it could move forward for a kind of green urban solution. So just briefly, this is not, I don't think we're going to be able to see this. Let's see. Okay, maybe we can. We'll just see if this works. No. Okay, well, we'll leave that. I'll go back here. Sorry now, because I'm not able to zoom with this machine, so it limits the communication. Okay, well, basically, yeah, it was roots and cities. Okay, we'll go through pretty quickly. This looked at this area here was looking at the idea of the sea poles. This is Greenway's route through Europe. These are a series of steps that the city could take. One is important. The first one I said was healthy cities address their waterways lovingly. This is the idea of using water infrastructure that's there, the existing waterways, and trying to give people access to these ways, trying to use them in a positive way, trying to use them for high levels of biodiversity, etc., etc. So these are projects or ideas that could be implemented here and that have already been implemented in Curitiba. There's the bikeway along the parts of the Rio Belém from the city centre up out of the city up towards Parque Lorenzo, possibly bringing it even further south towards here, towards Villa Torres. Puck might be possible. So that's Barcelona. I'll let you can just see it there. That's the idea. This image here was the idea of this network of these routes throughout the city. Okay, so quickly we leave Barcelona and then we go back to Dublin, where I'm from. Okay, so this is the project I'm going to speak to you about. It's called the Botanic Spine. It's a project that I did in about 2005. So this is here. So basically, yeah, we can pull this one. Okay. So this is the idea. So this is Dublin City. You can see big city, about maybe 2 million people. It's beside the sea. So this is a map here of Dublin. So the city's there. This project was a loop of 18 kilometres. It was a way of joining around in one circle. This is the main river, the River Liffey. You have a second river, you have another river here, and you have two canals. So the aim was to join up the two canals and this bit here. At the time, cycling along the canals was illegal. Then the idea was taking zones and trying to turn this into a bikeway as well as a food production zone for the city. An idea that on this routeway that there'd be nodal points from which projects would grow, was like seeds, little seeds in a network, things growing from them. This also is Europe's largest urban city park, the Phoenix Park, a relatively unused park given the size of it and compared to Dublin. Some people do use it, but overall it's not very well used. The access to it is difficult. So by trying to have a bikeway, which hopefully would become a major artery of transport and mobility around the city, we'll be bringing people through the park as well. This section here is actually a train tunnel which was unused, so it was the idea of reusing the urban infrastructure as well. Okay, so that's the kind of basic idea of it: river, route, and looking at a catalyst. What I was doing at this time, I was finishing architecture college. We had to do a theoretical project, so this was the urban logic I came up with that eventually led to an investigation here. So this section here of the spine here, that shows you a map of the different bits. So this section here is looked at in more detail here with a series of roads, crossing, green points, water points, etc. That's another analysis looking at the different components there, the different areas that could have possible areas, city bits that don't work at present. They're possibly danger areas or unused areas, possible projects to reinvigorate those areas and bring better life to the area. And then coming down here, so which is this little strip here, which is off the canal. And this is in an area of Dublin known as it's the old East Wall community where the docking part of the city was. This is Sheriff Street, Dublin people will know there. This is an area where the old city, which had been quite marginalised, quite left and abandoned by the state, where it got met from the mid-90s onward by the new growing city as the economy was improving, new developments were coming in. So it was two very different communities, the established and the new community, very big changes in class, looking at possible interactions between communities, and overall trying to improve the general urban reality, okay? So the end of that was a 300-metre park with buildings in the middle. This is a model, so you can see the new developments, the typical kind of tower or the apartment living zones, and then here you've kind of got smaller houses with gardens along here, and there's the church, the Lawrence O'Toole's church. The important thing is the canal. So this is the bit that I was interested in because it was the area where, again, this was at my time, it was closed off, the community was not allowed access there. There were problems, there were social problems, there was problems, drugs, criminality, etc. So our project was trying to push that this wall be taken down, that we open up this routeway along the city. So what came from a theoretical world of trying to make a piece of architecture, for theory, resulted in trying to bring those ideas into the world of reality. So we did bike rides. Every month we set up a group called the Dublin Eco City Group. We did bike rides along this routeway, which was illegal. So we were saying this rule that we're not allowed to cycle by the canal, we don't believe it should be this way. We believe that we should have the legal right to cycle along the canal. So with that, that was part of the process. I'll stop now and just explore this a little bit just in architectural terms, just two short little videos to show what was going on. So this is an example, this is a quick explanation of the model.
Dublin City and how it could be a more healthier, safer, connected space of city with water spaces and green spaces, the canal basin, our canal dock, the new park linking up to the canal at the far end. So a series of spaces for people to engage, a catalyst for the city, space for people to interact with each other, using the roof space of the entire quarter kilometre zone.
So that last building, or that bit of building that you saw was the sports block. The idea was that there would be a series of different functions happening within this 300-metre park. So it was a sport block, which was above ground and below ground, with swimming facilities down below. An outdoor football pitch, a place where people could come in the terrace and watch football. A library and a community space. Education zones, outdoor zone, theatre, sort of acting areas with, again, an outdoor sort of theatre, and then a kind of a gigs venue, so an area for events, for arts, for music, etc. in the area. Then the idea through the park, you just walk along the edge, or you could go through all the buildings and parks as you wanted, kind of wavering way, or else you could actually start going up along the roofscape, coming up along the roofs of the buildings, bridging across, coming up across. So we'll be using the roof of the city. This is an area I'm still very interested in. I think there's a whole world up in the roof level that we don't use that could be food production zone, energy harvesting, as well as just being a place to live, to be. You know? For example, in Barcelona, in the old town of Barcelona, where I lived for 7 years, a lot of people, for example, in the Raval district, right in the old centre, don't have permission to access their own roof terrace. About 70% of the people have not got this right. Their area is just unused. It does nothing up there for the most part. It just heats up and even increases higher the actual temperature of the city. So more people have higher reason to put on air conditioning, higher electricity demands, etc., etc. You've got more greenery up there. You can help cool the city a bit down, as well as a whole lot more. So it's a whole world that's not really utilised to its maximum. Anyway, this building, the sports zone, how that developed, a little quick video to show an example of where it was by the end of this kind of crazy process. Hopefully you can see all this now.
Catalyst at Botanics by Model 3. Again, the idea of using the roof of the building as a green public zone, buildings underneath, the park wraps around, it's cut and pasted back on top. Again, here you see the root through, the fruit sellers, the sports centre on the top, a climbing wall. That's an 8-story climbing wall which connects down to the pools down below, which are naturally lit. Again, greenery on the roof.
So you can see just greenery on the roof, a mix of different sorts of greenery, places to just sit out, or actual planting, like strategic planting going on as well. Okay, now, so go back to here. So that was the idea. That's the kind of architectural theory that was happening to finish university. That's what you have to do, design a piece of architecture, la la la. But like I said, then at the same time I was engaged in real world activism along with other eco-collectives in the city about trying to turn some of these ideas into realities, trying to generate a discussion in the city about what an eco-city might be, trying to generate practical projects that we could do to invite, encourage more people from different communities to get involved with these projects, to actually start moving the city to becoming more a green city. I still hold, one of the names Ireland plays with is the little green island or the green isle or whatever. But if people played with that a little bit, and actually the city had the wherewithal to actually have a vision of being a leader, an urban green leader, and using Dublin as a place to move forward, I think it's all there for the city to embrace these and to become a serious city in the world about future of urbanism. But so far it hasn't. We'll leave that discussion for later. Anyway, so what we did, we were doing our bike rides, and then came the food production zone. So what we did is we created a community garden here, another one here, and we went back to Sheriff Street, and that's where we started a tree walk. So with friends through the various eco groups in the country, we got trees, little baby native trees of Ireland, went around and distributed them to different communities in Dublin, and as an excuse to try to start off this conversation about an eco-city. So I'll just show you a quick little article. By the way, at the same time, I was involved in media activism, community media. With that, I talked a few days ago about the Indie Media Network. So at this time, this is 2005, it's before really the world of social media. We didn't really have our Facebooks back then. So as the new platforms are opening, which are allowing people to communicate and to tell their own stories to the world, we were using those. So that's all changing. The world's a very different place. Everybody can post on Facebook and Twitter and la la la, but back then it was a bit different. So, and there was a tree walk. There's a nice little poster someone made up. We went around. So there's pears given out. So we went down to Sheriff Street up to the roof of Larry O'Toole's, planted trees on the roof there. Again, actually using the roof there of the city, which is great. Down in the North Wall Centre there with a lot of the kids. There we are planting trees. We just asked everyone in the community, seeing where we could plant. So this, I think, was actually in the front garden of the priest's house. So he said, yeah, you can stick trees in there. So I think it was planting little willow trees, all the kids helping, just, enjoying the process, getting their hands dirty. I love this little picture here, these two kids. You can see your man, he's been busy there planting away. So yeah, that was with Kevin as well. So again, this is the idea. The idea with all this is trying to green the city, but also trying to connect communities. Different communities who might not necessarily connect physically in different cities, but also communities of ideas, of activists, trying to bring them together, trying to listen to each other, learn from each other, and hopefully co-create. That's really the basic idea behind all this. Okay. We also went to a homeless shelter up near Crow Park. So there's another school that we visited. That's a picture. That's what the city looked like. This is the routeway, the walkway along by the canal. That's just going along by the canal at the time. And by the way, when I just bring you back here to here, just to point out. Actually, no, I'll leave that to later. So There's in the homeless shelter. These two lads dug a hole, planted it for their friend. They planted a tree in memory of their friend Billy Merrigan, who just died. So that was a nice thing to be involved with, just to give them something to be able to do. That brings maybe the importance when you lose a good friend. They've got the tree there. I'm not sure if they're still in the hostel, but if anyone is there, they'd say, that's Billy's tree out the back. Anyway, so that was a tree walk. Okay, so then the community garden. We set up the community garden in Dolphin's Barn. This is a poster from about a half year later, just kind of as it developed. So basically, we had the strip along by the water at level. This is later on, so you can see planting has gone on. This is a poster we made up for the birthday party, the 1-year birthday party. Basically, we had the idea of the loop. In this area, Dublin 8, there was land not used beside the canal, and we basically said that would be a perfect place to set up this garden. It's raising discussions about unused parts of the city, about greenery, about community, etc., etc. So this is an important thing. We did not ask for permission. Okay, some people have issues with that. That's fine. The people who are involved in this project, we felt that we ourselves felt we had the authority to take the step, because people who've been involved in trying to ask the council for permission over years felt that we could engage in an asking process, could wait for 2 years, maybe do nothing, just sit there and go wait, and then be told, sorry, no, you can't do it. So we said, we will take action ourselves, because we believe strongly in this and believe strongly in raising the discussion, make it a real project, deal with the consequences, whatever they are that come our way, and use the project as a real world discussion, a real world project, as opposed to an abstract idea to try to engage in local communities. So that's what we did. We set up the community. It was great. For 6 months was there living away. A lot of community support. It eventually was moved. It was threatened with eviction, so it moved to another area that was unused. It was quickly moved out of there. And the third time, it was given a place where it still is today. So the collective still exists. There's still planting. There's still food production. There's still community connections happening, and a whole lot more growing from that. In my experience of community gardens and being involved in lots of different sorts of political projects, a garden is a very special place. Some people go, well, it's just food, blah, blah, blah. It's so much more. A garden is a space. It's a social space. People come together. Working is a great way to get to know other people. Working together over a few hours, you start to chat. You start to lose your kind of whatever little fears, your shyness, or whatever. When you're digging a hole or a few holes, it's a great social thing. With that, then as time starts to come, things are growing. Things are being eaten together. Communal feasts. It's a wonderful, wonderful project. Okay, so for me personally, it was one of the best projects that I had the pleasure to participate in. So I'll show you a video from many years later of where it is. And this is kind of roughly where it still is today, okay? So hopefully this will work and we won't have any problems. I'm probably not going to show all of it, but I'll show a section of it, okay?
Well, I know that every time I run into people and tell them that I'm in a community garden, they say, what, where? And it's like, oh, I didn't know that, it just, it's like the word gets out to some people, but not to everybody.
We were looking for another site for the garden, and I'd walk past the site quite a lot on my way to the studio. I was doing a studio residency in St. Andrew's Community Centre in Rialto, and I just thought it looked like a perfect site for the garden because it's like well fenced and it's very visible, so it means that people can walk by and see what's going on, like in terms of the project. But it was a case of finding out like who owns it and whether we could get use of it. So I knocked on the neighbours' doors, and they told me that it belonged to the salvage company, which is just in behind here. This actual site haven't been used for 20 years, and when I said that we were interested in doing a community garden project, the owner was really nice, and he said, yeah, no problem, you can use the site for free.
Okay, so not going to show it all there, it goes on for about another 10 minutes, but you get the idea. The idea of using a space in a positive way that's been derelict for 20 years. For 20 years, it sat there doing nothing. Walking around Curitiba, we see loads of empty sites all over the city. You know, how are they used? Could they be used in a better way? The idea of use is not the fact that it's going to change forever and always be this. The idea of looking at things in maybe a more short-term view, no? So if something's going to sit there unused, why not turn it into something productive? It can be a short-term food production zone. It can be a short-term project. It could be a short-term artistic space. In my experience, if you've got derelict spaces, they're just left. A lot of time people come in for drug use, as the case was in the area we worked in Dublin here. There was unfortunately a high drug use area. There are problems. Dublin had a long history of heroin abuse. That's one of the problems when you're working in these spaces as well. You know, people just throwing syringes. Here again, unfortunately, that's one of the problems in Dublin again, the crisis, that there's syringes where kids can get hepatitis or AIDS. So this is part of the realities, no? These are, I believe, projects that can work toward a more collected community, where I think true communities are ones that they have the self-belief in themselves, that they can deal with their own problems, that they organise to try to work for their community, that they take pride in their community. I think it's one of the things that the modern world has lost or is losing, this sense of community and connection. I think it can be brought back, and I think these projects are steps to try to allow those connections and other things, relationships to form that are really the glue to making these sort of things happen. Okay, so where things are now, we'll go back to here. So going back, so that's a picture from the bike ride. Like I said, we did these bike rides every month. These Greenway bike rides. So you can see a picture of the little logo, the EcoCity map, our EcoCity group. I've been involved in projects in Banja Luka in Bosnia in 2003 after the wars in the Balkans. That's where the first EcoCity group that I was involved with formed. So I kind of took those ideas, brought them to Ireland, and we did these bike rides for a while. And it's something I'd like to continue. We've talked to people here during these 2 weeks, maybe about trying to set up something like this and trying to look at projects that we can do here to try to, raise the ideas about what an EcoCity is, but also practical projects, little bits of change we can bring about. So actually, we're putting the ideas into practice. Okay. So yeah, you've seen Dublin. That's it there in the maps. Yeah, you've seen that. Seen the maps, so just different images there from actually the project. So that's what it could look like, more things happening along by the canals, waterways, planting zones. That's the EcoCity group, so it's a picture from the pillar in the park, sitting there with our bikes, riding over the river. This is an image from the other garden, the Phibsborough Community Garden, another image from it there. So these are the kind of posters we're making, just basic little funny posters saying St. Patrick's Day, or do you want to come plant food, plant potatoes? This is looking at old traditions that have been lost. In the old days, St. Patrick's Day in Ireland was the day where the Irish planted potatoes. So it was bringing that back as being a celebrational community event for us to do. So some images from the garden. There's Kev, Lauren, Paul, and some young lad who came in planting spuds for the first time. There's us sitting down, having tea, having a break. These are people who a few months earlier never knew each other. So communities can form, and through the projects you're involved. We did the bike rides illegally at the time. One of the bike rides, in fact the last ones that I was involved in, there's a guy called Andrew Montague. At the time he was the deputy mayor of Dublin City. There he is, that's actually his chain that he wore, is like, you know, it's, the mayors have. So in his last day in office, in his public office, he actually did the bike ride with us, came along the loop. He came into this squatted piece of land, so squatted community garden in Dublin. He was there helping weeding away. This is the important thing about strategy. We have dreams about what we want to achieve, about having an idea how we can get from where we are now to where we want to be, and trying to find allies, trying to find people who share our dreams. A guy from Swedish Eco Village talks about fire souls. He says the important first step in any project you want to engage in is trying to find fire souls, people who share, who burn with a similar passion to try to make the similar sort of changes that you feel yourself. So forming allies, forming groups, etc. That's important. Here in Curitiba, that's worked very well. When you looked at the people talking this morning about cycle. Amount of the canal, put in a bikeway along the canal. Also during that time there was a whole plans to put in the rest of the bikeway. So this bit's still problematic because of the trains, but the plan is actually to have, you know, a bike routeway, a greenway system within the city. So that's grown. The garden is still growing, and I left Ireland in 2006. 2 years later, the economic crisis hit, which Dave talked earlier about how the artistic world has kind of really grown from that, but also the food production world has really grown as people were faced with limitations on money because they lost jobs because of all the crisis cuts, austerity cuts. Lots of garden projects started to come about. So this was a bit of an experiment. You know, we didn't have all the solutions, we didn't know all the ways to do things. That didn't matter. We started, we took the first step. The first step is always the most important step. All the rest comes from that bold step into the unknown. Okay, so that's a bit about, I don't know if you have any questions or whatever, but that's a little bit of our experiences in Ireland and a little bit about Barcelona.
Oh, then thank you very much for your talk again. I have watched that before, so I already got all my questions done, but if you have any comment or question, please share in the comments with us of this talk, or on Twitter and Facebook we have the hashtag #CheerForPeaceExpo. So the same that is in here, #CheerForPeaceExpo. You can do your contribution with your thoughts and your feedback on Twitter or Facebook. Thanks, Don, for your amazing talk and inspiration. We will be connecting soon with Barcelona, with Juan. So it's gonna be at 4 o'clock. So stay tuned. And cheer for peace.
Yep. Cheers.
Thank
Rock
you.
on. Okay.